welcome to this new video. Today we are going to talk about how to use Google Tag Manager's API to interact with your Google Tag Manager account and containers and manage them remotely. I've done a few tutorials in the past where I talked about how to do this for GE4 and more specifically using the GE4 admin API to manage your account settings and property settings. But today the goal is going to be a bit different because we are going to talk about tag management and how to take your first step to access your accounts and list your available containers. You need, of course, a Google Cloud account. I'm going to walk you through these steps to set it up in some basic knowledge of Python. Don't worry if you don't. I'm going to leave you with some guides and walk you through the process to get you started. Without further ado, let's get into this video. The first step to get started is to go to Google Cloud. If you do not have a Google Cloud project or you never heard of Google Cloud, I will leave just a link in the description to go to it. You will land on a screen similar to this one. What you need to do is to click on this button right here and select new project. You can name the project whatever you want and create it. The next step is to head to the API section. You can use the search bar right here and search for API. And we see here the API in services. And what we need to do is to click on enable API in services. In here, we have a list of all the APIs. You need to search for Google Tag Manager. You select the Tag Manager API and you click on enable. Now we have our Tag Manager API enabled. The next step is to create a service account. And a service account is basically how we will connect with our Python app to access Google Tag Manager. How to do this is you search for service account and you click on create service account. I'm going to name it GTM app. Now for the role, I'm going to use the owner and then I will click on done. Now we have a service account and what we need to do is click on our email right here. Before, make sure to save this email to use it later on. Next, I'm going to go to keys and then I'm going to create a key. And basically the key is how the Google account will make sure that you are indeed the manager of the API. You are not trying to basically access account that you do not have access to. I'm going to click on create new key. I'm going to select JSON and click on create. Once you do this, a JSON file will be downloaded automatically to your local computer. I'm going to close this window. Now we created our key. Let's go back to the service accounts tab and I'm going to just copy my email right here. You need next to go to Google Tag Manager. I will head to the admin section to add my address. I will go to user management. I will just invite the email. I'll give it administrator role. I'm going to invite it, give it publish access, and then our app is successfully connected to my account. Now we will start finally writing some code. As you can see here, I opened a notebook instead of a regular Python file just to show you how each step works. The first step you need to take, as you can see on my screen, is to install some necessary libraries to connect with Google Tag Manager and manage the request you are going to send to your container. So once you run this first cell, it will basically install the libraries. By the way, I'm going to leave this script just for your reference after the end of this video. And then in the second cell, we will start actually using the libraries we installed. We are going to use the Google's authentication to import our service account. And that's basically how we are going to interact with Google Tag Manager. The second line is for interaction with the actual Google Tag Manager API and asking for account lists, container lists, and other tasks we can do using the API. So you can see here that I have the service account file points to a key. The key JSON file is, if you remember earlier, is the file we downloaded once we were setting up the service account, and then we define the scopes. So the scopes are very important and will determine what you can do with the API. You can see here that it's only a read scope. The credentials are for setting up the authentication process, and here we created a instance of a service account. In line 11 we move to listen our accounts. using a function. So first, this function, what we will do, it will basically look for the accounts and return the first account it finds. You can see it here in line 17. And then we defined a second function that will list our containers for that account. So basically, the first function will find an account, and the second one will print any related containers that are related to that specific account. And once I run the cell, you can see here that if it found an account with this ID, and then we have two containers that you see here. If you remember, it's exactly the containers that we saw earlier when we were given access to our server account, and I have indeed two containers that are available. So that's the script. I'm going to show you in the upcoming videos how to use the API to do more advanced tasks, but for now you are pretty set to get started. I will leave it somewhere in the description with the article that I wrote, which expand on what you see here. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.